I'm Luke Summerhays, and I love Mudkip. It's impossible to talk about Mudkip without mentioning the internet meme, which was ever present in the 2000s. Before I knew the word meme, I was aware that internet humour thought the phrase, "so I heard you like Mudkips," was inherently funny without any context or wit. Like a lot of this early internet humour, it originated in a post on the message board 4chan. The original post is crass, ableist, and generally pretty awful, so I'm not really fond of the meme here in 2020, but I thought it was worth discussing when talking about the otherwise adorable monster. Mudkip is a gormless but lovable little Pokemon. I'm a water starter guy, so naturally I picked Mudkip when I played Pokemon Sapphire on my Game Boy Advance almost 2 decades ago. Like most water starters, Mudkip draws inspiration from a real-life animal which is only semi-aquatic. It appears to be based on some form of amphibious salamander, like a mudskipper. The frills on the side of its head do draw comparison to the axolotl, which also inspired Wooper, and like that Pokemon, the shiny version trades blue colouring for a pinkish hue, like the Oopa Loopa that first popularised axolotls as a pet in Japan through television commercials. Mudkip's Pokédex entries start off reading like very believable animal facts. Pokemon Ruby tells us, "The fin on Mudkip's head acts as highly sensitive radar. Using this fin to sense movements of water and air, this Pokemon can determine what is taking place around it without using its eyes." And Pokemon Sapphire tells us, "In water, Mudkip breathes using the gills on its cheeks. If it is faced with a tight situation in battle, this Pokemon will unleash amazing power. It can crush rocks bigger than itself." Yeah, it starts to take a turn away from real animal facts towards the ridiculous. Pokemon Emerald tells us, "On land, it can powerfully lift large boulders by planting its 4 feet and heaving. It sleeps by burying itself in soil at the water's edge." The name Mudkip pretty obviously comes from Mudskipper. The Japanese name is Mitsuguro, a combination of Mitsu, which is water, and Mutsuguro, the Japanese name for a Mudskipper. In the anime, Brock started his dream of being a Pokemon breeder with a Mudkip hatched from an egg. Like all Mudkip do at level 16, this Pokemon eventually evolved into Marshtomp. Marshtomp is a taller, more bipedal version of Mudkip. It has an even more goofy appearance than its pre-evolved form, perhaps owing to the Muppet mouth looking funny on a more anthropomorphic creature. With the jump to 3D games in the 6th generation, people began to notice that Marshtomp's lifeless dead eyes have a creepy quality to them. Fans in Japan turned the cold, psychotic glare of Marshtomp into a popular meme. Much like Mudkip, Marshtomp's Pokédex entries read very much like real-life Mudskipper nature facts. Pokemon Ruby tells us, "The surface of Marshtomp's body is enveloped by a thin, sticky film that enables it to live on land. This Pokemon plays in mud on beaches when the ocean tide is low." And Pokemon Sapphire tells us, "Marshtomp is much faster at travelling through mud than it is at swimming. This Pokemon's hindquarters exhibit obvious development, giving it the ability to walk on just its hind legs." And Pokemon Emerald tells us, "Its toughened hind legs enable it to stand upright. Because it weakens if its skin dries out, it replenishes fluids by playing in mud." The name Marshtomp is a combination of marsh and stump. The Japanese name Numacraw is a little more interesting. Numa is swamp in Japanese, and craw could come from crawfish, which does live in shallow waters in Japan but looks nothing like this Pokemon. Or perhaps just cruel, because it crawls in the mud. Well, Mudkip was already a Pokemon that lived and played in mud. As Marshtomp, it gains an actual secondary ground typing. Number 1 superfan of the show, Patreon supporter and host of Monster Mash, Andrew Rice, was particularly enamoured with these muddy hijinks. He had this to say.
Mudkip. What is there to say about Mudkip? I mean, it's one of the earliest memories I have of internet memes going out of control. But most importantly, the thing about Mudkip is he's just so damn cute. A cute little fish that used to slap mud everywhere. And I always thought that was the most exciting thing. I remember water Pokemon, with all their water blasting moves, your hydro cannons, your water guns, etc. And that was all what they were about. But then you had Mudkip, who brought this mud slap to the party, and suddenly there's this whole new aspect to water that we didn't know it had before. Of course, it makes sense, being a little boy that grew up in Britain. Mud, because of rain or something we were surrounded with, but obviously the Pokemon had never harnessed, made the most out of the environment before, but now we've got this little cute fish thing slapping mud over everyone, getting them all dirty, making the Pokemon faint because they're just so damn ashamed of how filthy they are. Bye.
At level 36, Marshtomp evolves one more time and becomes Swampert. Swampert is a big, hunched, almost quadrupedal monster, which manages to look bulky on land, but as though it could be pretty sleek in water. Its interesting water and ground typing, combined with nice stats in pretty much every department apart from speed, make it a solid pick as a bulky tank Pokemon for quite a few generations of the competitive game. Swampert is a big, strong beast, and the Pokedex expresses that nicely. Pokemon Rupee tells us, Swampert is very strong. It has enough power to easily drag a boulder, weighing more than a ton. This Pokemon also has powerful vision that lets it see even in murky water. Pokemon Sapphire tells us, Swampert predicts storms by sensing subtle differences in the sound of waves and tidal winds with its fins. If a storm is approaching, it piles up boulders to protect itself. And Pokemon Emerald tells us, if it senses the approach of a storm and a tidal wave, it protects its seaside nest by piling up boulders. It swims as fast as a jet ski. With the release of Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, we got an even bigger, even stronger version with Mega Swampert. Mega Swampert is unbelievably jacked, with an upper body that puts a street shark to shame. As well as all this power, the swift swim ability, which makes it faster in rain, made it an absolute killing machine, particularly when paired with a Pokemon that sets rain, just like the newly introduced Primal Kyogre. Swampert combines swamp and earth, though to me it always sounded a little bit like the name Herbert or Rupert, and not particularly threatening. In fact, I find it so unimpressive that I often accidentally refer to this one as Marshtomp. After all, this final form looks like it does more stomping. The Japanese name is the more appropriate Laglage, a combination of lagoon and large. This is a Pokemon family perhaps mostly remembered for its association with some silly memes. As I said at the top of the show though, I'm a water starter fan, and I liked Mudkip a lot back in the day. I think it should be remembered as an adorable little friend that evolves into an excellent beast. Music for Luke Loves Pokemon was composed by Jonathan Cromie. Artwork for the show is by Katie Groves. If you've enjoyed this podcast and want to help keep it online, please consider supporting at patreon.com/podcastiopodcastius. While you're there, why not check out the other podcasts me and my pals create? I also love it when listeners get in touch. Hit me up on Twitter or Facebook at LukeLovesPKMN. I want to hear why you love these monsters, whether it's a Pokemon we've already covered, or one that's coming up. Next up are Puchaina and Zigzagoon, so please let me know your thoughts on those. I love Mudkip, and remember, I love you too.